You are listening to the Knightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Knightline is brought to you by the Dever team, your source for New Smyrna Beach real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Go to www.thedeverteam.com and call UCF alumni Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach needs. 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636.
Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
All right, hello Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios, and this is Knightline 266 from the award-winning Knightline Sports Network. Joining me as always,
Roger Phipps, and on this week's show, the Bear Kittens show their claws. The Tigers are coming out to play. We discuss rebuilds versus reloads, your questions in Ask Knightline, the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week, and news and notes.
Alrighty, well, it did not turn out at all like we wanted it to, going up to Cincinnati, or as myself had predicted, of course, in our score predictions, blah, blah, blah. I'm really not right most of the time. I think I've won one of those this year, but I'm such a homer that I'm not ever going to root against UCF. I'm never going to pick against UCF. I would be horrible if I was doing this for money, but I'll always pick UCF and usually by a lot. So don't listen to me when it comes to score predictions. Anyway, obviously we know Cincinnati 56, UCF 21. You've probably heard the radio show by now. Hopefully you listened to both of these. We've talked about it quite a bit on there, but we're going to talk about it some more on here for those of you that haven't heard the radio show. And we're going to have a lot more time to talk about it here. Kyle Israel is out again this week, unfortunately. We're doing this on Monday night, just because of things over the weekend as well with everybody. So it is what it is. But we got Ask Knightline questions. We got clips. We got all kinds of stuff. And you can listen to us. I'm kind of
scared of the Ask Knightline questions.
Why?
Oh, I don't know. That'll be interesting to see what they came up with.
No, there's nothing crazy in there.
Oh, okay.
Let's get to that. Ask a Knightline is brought to you by Chad Barr Law. Chad is a UCF alumnus and diehard Knights fan. Chad Barr Law handles auto accident, slip and fall, and personal injury cases. Call Chad today at 407-599-9036 for a free consultation. That's 407-599-9036. Armor up and call Chad Barr Law today. All right, time to get to your questions in Ask Knightline, of course. Tony Cummings, by the way, at UCF 365, Tony Cummings. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Tony, by the way.
Happy birthday, man.
Ask questions all the time and everything else. So we appreciate it. I hope you're having a good day and a happy birthday. All right. He says, hey, gents, so let's look into the future. What freshman, sophomore do you estimate can be an impact player next year? Well, I think you're seeing one of the freshmen right now that's going to be an impact player next year. At least one of them. And I'm going to say Mikey Keene, because you have no idea, or we have no idea. I don't think anybody has any idea what's going to happen with Dylan Gabriel, whether he comes back or not. I've been seeing a lot of people posting and talking about this, and I don't think anybody knows, to be honest with you, if he's going to come back, if he's going to not come back, if he's going to go to the NFL, if he's going to transfer. You never know what's going to happen with that. But, I mean, as far as we know, unless the incoming quarterback for next year is, hands above what Mikey Keene is, Mikey Keene will probably be the starter if Dylan does not come back. We'll just say that. If Dylan does not come back, Mikey Keene will be the quarterback of the future, probably. So I'm just going to go with him. I mean, I don't know enough about most of the freshmen out there besides him, to be honest with you. So I'm just going to go easy, and I'm going to take him. Roger?
Well, what's interesting about the quarterback situation is you've got Thomas Castellanos coming in, and word just dropped today that Georgia is now after him. So it'll be really interesting to see, because he's a freshman, or he will be a freshman quarterback, and he's been very, very vocal about his commitment to us and trying to recruit people. So if Thomas Castellanos comes in, that may be someone who might give Mikey Keene a run for his money, assuming Dylan isn't back. That being said, I'm going to go with the linebackers that are sophomores. There's several linebackers that we brought in that are sophomores that were highly rated, large, big guys that have a lot of speed. So I'm not going to say anybody specifically, but there's 2 or 3 linebackers that'll be sophomores next year, and we're losing a few of our linebackers. We lost Gilliard already this year. I expect that position to have most of the impact players, quote unquote impact players, just because it's going to be a turnover. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with the offensive line next year. We lose a lot of those guys, so I'm going to guess they're going to bring transfers in to try to shore up the line. So for me, I'm thinking for opportunity for impact, assuming quarterback is not in question, that's going to be the linebackers.
Yeah, I could see that. Also, I guess you could say Titus probably. He's a freshman this year and hasn't seen a ton of on the field experience. I mean, he's caught a couple. He's got 1 touchdown, I think, maybe 2 so far this season. So I would hope him being a 4-star. I can't say his name, so I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to call him Titus.
We all know who you're talking about.
I have the roster up in front of me. Anthony Williams could be as a running back, to be honest with you. He was the one from Lake Brantley. We haven't seen him too much either, if we've seen him at all. I don't know if he's got a carry at all. Maybe last week in garbage time or one of the garbage times. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Charlie Browder, tight end. Big guy, 6'7", 260. I don't think we've seen him yet. So
we have not.
Yeah, those would be the Cole Joyce is one of those linebackers you were talking about. Kadeem Leonard is the other linebacker you were talking about.
Yep.
Carlos Bailey Weiss is another linebacker, freshman from Orlando. Yeah, so, and, we're going to see some of those freshman offensive linemen, I bet you. So there are a couple of those guys, and they're big guys, too. 6'5" and 6'6", 290, one of them from Germany, which we still haven't seen, 64, Lender Weigland, and Ethan Mort. I don't know if we've seen him yet at all.
We have not.
So those are pretty much the people. And Joe Rahal, which is a long snapper. We may see a new long snapper. You never know throughout this season, but he's a really small dude. 6', 180 as a long snapper. But anyway, yeah, so I don't know. I don't know about that. The other thing that Tony was asking, question number 2 from Tony, if I can get my phone to open up back here. Who do you think will take advantage of the COVID year and become a super senior next year? Oh boy, this could be interesting. The biggest thing with that would be, and I don't know the rules completely, but I don't think that I don't know. I guess, can grad transfers do that? That's a question that I have, and I'm not sure who is all... I don't know if a grad transfer qualifies for that. Be nice to have Bowser back again if he's healthy, because he's a senior. Big Cat Bryant, does he have another year? I know that Brandon Johnson, does he have another year? Kalia Davis, does he have another year? You know what I'm saying? All these seniors, there's tons of them. Redshirt seniors and seniors, there's a ton of them. Pretty much our entire offensive line would be a senior or a super senior if they decide to keep going. So I'll take any of them, to be honest with you, or most of them if they could. Roger, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to answer this because I'm not sure who is eligible for that and who's not.
Yeah, I don't know what the rule is either on that, whether there's a max cap on the number of years you can play, but I mean, there's not when you have medical red shirts.
And then you usually have
else.
4, obviously, but
Right.
with COVID, you would have 5.
Right.
You had 5 as a grad transfer sometimes. Sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 5. So I would assume that everyone from last year gets a year. I don't know if that includes transfers, though. So I guess we need to do our research. Tony is asking questions that it's hard to answer just because of not knowing every NCAA rule. So if you have more to add to that, you're more than welcome.
If you're telling me, no, because I'm in the same boat as you are on that one. I'm not familiar with the rule well enough to say that in that specific instance. I know that folks do have that option, but I don't know enough about it, especially when it comes to a maximum number of years that you can play.
Okay, yeah, me either. Okay, we may be able to talk a little bit more on his third question. Number 3, are you excited for next year's out-of-conference schedule? I mean, there could be some cool... Yeah, I mean, there... I don't know. FIU, no. Florida Atlantic, no. Louisville, at the Bounce House, that'll be good, I guess. I mean, we kind of owe them for this year. That was a good game, even though we lost and our quarterback... came out injured, and a bunch of other guys came out injured in that game. So that's at home, Saturday, September 10th, Saturday, September 24th, supposedly, would be Georgia Tech at Orlando at the Bounce House. So, yeah, I mean, those 2 games are going to be pretty exciting. We've got 2 Power 5 teams, and both at home. So,
and both winnable.
Yeah. Georgia Tech, especially. Louisville, who knows? You never know with that one. But, I mean, it's a better schedule, I believe, to have the road games being FIU and FAU versus the Power 5 teams being on the road, So it's a smarter schedule. So, yeah, I guess I'm excited. I mean, it's a little bit better than... what we had this year, I guess, Bethune-Cookman. Do we not play, is it 2023 that we play Boise? Yeah, Boise and BYU. Yeah, okay. So 2022 is what I already said. FAU, FIU, Louisville, Georgia Tech. So, yeah, I mean, it'll be an exciting season. Roger?
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, every season for me is exciting. Unfortunately, I'm a little worried about next season, considering our O-line is going to be in rough shape, or not necessarily in rough shape, but let's say an unknown. That would be my biggest concern for next year is, are we going to have any issues because of the O-line?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the transfer portal does amazing things, and, it's in full effect. So, and there's going to be, I think there's even going to be more transfers this next year. This one was kind of the first year that rule was available. So, and you've even seen people go into the transfer portal after the 4th game or before the 4th game or whatever, after the 4th game, I guess, if they didn't play. So there's kind of like that free agency thing in, the trade deadline or whatever in
right.
Professional sports. It's free agency. Okay, next question here, coming from hashtag 10 Ohana, and it's at Free Sport Travel. I think that he's getting free advertising for his questions here, which is fine. It's all good. At Free Sport Travel, check it out. We could talk about a advertisement if you want. You know how to get a hold of me. Andrew, as someone who has played football at a high level, can you speak on how important strength and conditioning is at preventing injuries? Do you think there could be any connection between a new strength and conditioning coach coming in and the injuries UCF has suffered? It is important. It's extremely important. And I'm not sure, to be honest with you, if it actually has anything to do with that. There's a lot of things that go into all of this, though. But our strength and conditioning head coach is one of the best that's out there. So I think that he's been doing this for a very long time. Chris Dawson is the guy. He's been out there for years and has always been one of the best ones. So I don't think that he's done anything that drastically different that he would hurt our players. You do hear about that, though. You hear about, you heard about in Nebraska, the guy that we had when Scott Frost was here. I don't remember his name. Doesn't really matter. But they hurt some of their players and literally dehydrated them and sent them to the hospital during practices in the summertime. But this guy's been around, all the way since 1995. And he's been in the NFL. He's been at huge football programs: Oklahoma, Minnesota, Kansas, Kansas State, UCF. Huge.
Yeah, he's one of the most well-respected strength and conditioning coaches and highly decorated, might I add, strength and conditioning coaches out there. When I think about this, I think about the types of injuries that we're seeing. So, for example, nothing's going to stop in strength and conditioning Dylan Gabriel breaking his collarbone.
No.
Right?
Nope.
That has nothing to do with it. A lot of times when
Bowser's knee was already screwed up, we knew that.
Yeah.
Coming in.
And it was just the helmet right on his knee that put him out. So, that happens. It's not strength and conditioning. When you're looking at tears or like strains or things like that, typically you can kind of point to strength and conditioning, but that's not really what we're seeing. We're seeing ACLs, Kalia Davis, or Kalia, I never get it right.
Kalia, you got it right.
Yeah. Kalia Davis, his injury was a non-contact injury where his knee just gave out and his ACL tore. So
his ACL was probably weak in the first place.
Exactly.
So and that probably had nothing to do with this year's conditioning. It may have something to do with some players sitting out last year and not having a full schedule last year. And hitting the weights a little harder to try to get into real football shape. Like maybe they weren't in it last year. They had a little bit more time to work out. They worked out a lot last year by themselves. Remember that? When they were all at home? That, I think, would have something to do with it, if anything has something to do with it, personally.
Yeah, I agree. I just... just going through the list, and again, we don't know what Flash's injury is, so can't speak to that one.
Yeah, that's weird. I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, nobody does.
I haven't ever heard. They asked Coach about him today. He says he's week to week. He's been coming back and doing a few things, but I just never heard anything. I don't know if it's his wrist, his elbow, his knee, his foot. It's.
Does he have a sprain?
It's weird. There's no reports of him being on crutches or being in a boot. Is it ribs? Literally, we don't know. And it's weird because we normally figure that out and find out what people's injuries are. So, very strange. And I don't know if they're doing a really good job keeping that under wraps or what? So, yeah, I don't think that it has anything to do with conditioning, strength and conditioning. I really don't this year. Like I said, I'm repeating myself again, which people complain about, which I don't care. But I think it has more to do, if anything, is improper conditioning last year when players were working out by themselves. It's the only thing I can really think of. But like we said as well, a lot of these injuries are not due to, you said a lot of these things aren't strains and sprains and stuff.
Or tears,
yeah,
like pec tears or anything like that.
Yeah,
It's nothing like that.
Lee's ankles, I think it's his ankle, which is bothering him again. I hear. I think he'll be playing, but they took him out a little bit early this last week, which was probably good for him. No, just to Coach, when he was asked about it today, said that we were down so far, and why keep players out there? Yeah, why risk it if you don't have to? So I'm glad that he pulled starters in the end of that. Let some other guys come in, for sure. Okay, the last one here. Thank you for your question. That was a good one. Last question, and this is, I think it's kind of tongue-in-cheek and meant to kind of be funny, but it's true. I noticed this, believe it or not. I'm an audio guy, and I noticed this. Why was Coach Malzahn fitted with the headset with a mile of cable at Nippert Stadium? I have no idea, because normally we have our own system. The only thing that I can think of is those wireless ones. They're in where the stadium is located. There is like in downtown of a major city. Maybe they had frequency issues or something. And there was something was cutting out or whatever. But that coach's headset is extremely important. So if there was signal issues, and I know this because I used to travel around with bands, and I did Broadway shows and all kinds of stuff as a sound engineer. And we literally would work with the manufacturers of our wireless systems to, when we went into every city, they would literally, a rep from those companies would fax us at that time, or email us. I don't know why I said fax, but they would email us a list of the frequencies that were solid in those areas, and ones that weren't, ones to stay away from. So we would specifically change our frequencies on all the wireless stuff. And I worked on a Broadway show where there was about 48 wireless things. They had in-ear monitors and wireless microphones, and I think there was 48 or 52 or something like that. So I'm thinking it was some kind of an issue with that, where his just wasn't working right, and so they just decided to go with the cable. Which, there was a guy following him around holding the cable, and I was thinking about this because I saw that, and I was like, man, that guy has to be like right there. And Coach would look back at him every once in a while, like, who's this guy? And he wasn't used to the guy being there. Obviously, it's been a long time since he probably had a wired headset like that. But there was a guy rolling the cable behind him, and so it was interesting. It's kind of the old school days.
Well, I can't speak to this, but do you mind if I go back to Tony C's question real quick?
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. So that was Ken McGuffey, by the way, that asked that. K McGuffey, at K McGuffey, Ken McGuffey. Thank you.
Thank you for the submission.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, no, I was just going to circle back to that because while you were talking about stuff I have absolutely no idea about, which is long cables and audio engineering equipment, I did a little bit of research and pulled up the rule and what it means for the extra year of eligibility for the COVID year. So basically what it means is normally you have like 5 years to play 4 or 6 years to play 4. This is a whole nother year. So whether you played 100% of the season or none of it in 2020 to 2021, they are not counting that towards that towards that total at all. So technically, any player could now play 5 years, should they choose to. So if they, they only played 4, or they had a medical red shirt or whatever,
but what if you've already played 5? If
you've already played 5, then
grad transfer, those guys are out.
Yep.
Okay.
That's what it looks like here. So basically, they're only adding 1 more year. Now again,
but their 4th year wouldn't have counted. You know what I'm saying?
Hold on. Yeah, but this is where I'm going with it, right? So you said someone who's played 5, right? So it's 5 full seasons. If they got a medical red shirt or something 1 year, or they only played the 3 games 1 year as opposed to the 4, or what have you, that doesn't count as a year towards their eligibility and wouldn't count towards that. So technically, they could have played 3 games in a season, or got a medical red shirt for a year, or whatever. That would count normally like they would towards the 4 years. So they may have played in 5 seasons, but technically it's only 4 years, so they'd have another year to go. Does that make sense?
No. But
okay.
A lot of the NCAA rules don't make chance. I was trying to type, and I was typing chance.
Well, they don't have a chance to make sense. Let's just put it that way.
Make sense, yeah. I just wonder about the grad transfers, though, because that still doesn't make sense. Because think about it: if a grad transfer played his fourth year at whatever school that it was last year, that year does not count. So
correct.
This would technically be their 4th year.
Correct.
So do they have 1 more? That's the question.
Yes, they would have 5. Well, no, they would.
Because that year, last year did not count, even though they weren't a grad transfer at that point.
Yes, correct.
Right.
So
they're a grad transfer this year, which normally they would get 1 year to be a grad transfer.
Correct.
So I think they should have 1 more year.
They should, if they were counting last year towards that 4th year, right? So basically, you just wipe the slate clean for 2020 and 2021 as far as terms of eligibility. So no matter anybody who played in the NCAA in Division I football last year, in 2020 and 2021, it does not count towards their eligibility. Period.
Okay. Now, did you say an extra year means a current? Hold on. Did you say they have 6 years to play it?
Okay, so traditionally,
right, they have 5 years to play their 4.
Correct.
And now they have 6 years to play their 4.
Correct.
Okay.
But we're not counting 1 year. So even if they played that full season and it was their 4th, it doesn't matter.
Right.
That's why you have 4 for 6.
Yeah. I'm just still can't find anything. I'm trying to find something on the grad transfers. Oh boy.
Well, it doesn't matter how they got to UCF, right? Whether it was quote unquote a grad transfer or not. If they played 3 years prior to last year and they graduated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last year didn't count, so they still have another year to play, and they have another year of eligibility.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, maybe the grad transfers actually have 2 years then. No. So, hopefully they do. That would be really cool if they want that opportunity.
Yeah. If they graduated on their 4th year and last year was their 4th year, it doesn't count, so they get 1 more year to play.
Okay. Well, there you go. Interesting. Yeah, compliance would. This is going to be a big thing for them, the lawyers and the compliance people, to figure all this out, because I'm sure there will be somebody who falls through the cracks and gets an extra year somehow that probably shouldn't have, and somebody's not going to get their year that they should have probably. So you know how the NCAA works. Something gets messed up all the time. So, all right. Excuse me. That was I burped. I guess that was Ask Knightline. Good questions. I enjoyed them. They're fun. I especially enjoyed the audio question. And then, all these questions were great questions. So not very many, but thank you. Appreciate it. That's all that matters. It's quality over quantity. Easy for me to say. All right, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Barr Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices, Altamont Springs.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com. All right, well, we're back. I guess we should probably get into talking about this Cincinnati game just a little bit more. We're going to start out here with Gus's opening statement after the loss to Cincinnati.
First of all, congratulations, Cincinnati, on the win. They're as good as advertised. Congratulations to them. Well, we didn't play well. For us to have a chance, we would have had to play really well offensively. The first half, wasn't able to run the football, get anything going. Defensively, I thought did some solid things in the first half. I think they lost a little hope right there when they were on the field a lot. Special teams, they had I think they got a hand on the punt, gave them a short field. With that at halftime, we kind of regrouped a little bit, came out with a little bit of spark in the second half. We got to have big plays. And we had a couple explosive plays that led to points. Defensively, had trouble stopping the run. Special teams, we had another really catastrophic thing happen, getting the ball inside the 10-yard line, and against one of the best teams in the country, you can't do that. And so they beat us handily. We got to take it like men. We're halfway through the season, and we got to get better. So now, as coaches, we know what we have and all that, and we need to finish this thing strong.
Okay, halfway through, Roger. Not quite where we wanted to be at the halfway point, but there's still a chance to get this thing going in the right direction and to get to a bowl game. I think is probably the trophy at the end of all this at this point. I don't see us winning the conference, to be honest with you, and I know that that's always the goal. But with Cincinnati playing as good as they are, and I admit on the radio show yesterday that I'm a full believer right now in Cincinnati, and I'm very glad that they're ranked number 2. I'm not going to root for them just because I think it's a rivalry. I think it's a natural rival for us. I would much rather they be our rival than the other team, to be honest with you, because they're not very good. And they haven't been very good for a while. And they're not going to the Big 12 with us. So I think our natural rival would probably be Cincinnati, since we've played them. And now they lead the series now, which it was tied up until Saturday. And now they lead it 4-3. So, but I'm a full believer that they are a awesome football team on all 3 phases of the ball. And they have a great coach. That's another thing. This is one of those things. I'm just kind of trying to go through things that I said yesterday, if you haven't heard. One of the things is Luke Fickell has had since 2017 to build this team, and has a lot of his guys there, that he recruited. He's not going through the same things that we are. We've had 3 head coaches in that span, and none of them have seen a graduating class go through. Think about that. None of them have been here when their students or when their recruits graduated. None of them have been here. That tells you how what has happened to our football program can happen when coaches don't stay and when coaches get picked off and go other places. So it's crazy. But you see when you have a good football coach as well, and when they stay, what can happen to your team. And they've done it in Cincinnati, period. So I'm a firm believer. And, I don't know. I may root for them a little bit to do really well in this thing, but I'm not going to just because I believe in what they've done and believe that it's real doesn't mean I'm, jumping off the bandwagon here to be a Cincinnati fan. I'm not saying that by any means. I'm just saying that they're for real. Roger.
Well, they're definitely for real. They showed us they were for real. We both had our, differences as far as what we thought the score was going to be. I mean, I thought they would win, but I certainly didn't.
Well, I thought they would win, but I was being optimistic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm always going to be optimistic. Well, most of the time anyway. When it comes to that.
And, here's the reality of it. I got to watch that football team, and when you watch a well-coached senior Latin, thoroughly impressive and just hyped up team, you saw Cincinnati this past Saturday. They knew what stage they were on. They knew they were good. They played their keys well. Ritter made just a couple of mistakes. Their running game was on point. They had their offensive line is not great, but the way that they blocked and Ford, quite frankly, you watch that guy and he was making folks miss one-on-one. And that was the biggest difference between UCF and Cincinnati when I thought about that game was watching how their running back did in one-on-one situations versus our defense. When you watch their running back, he gets out in a little bit of space. Our guys are not staying home. They're trying to force him to a certain way. Then he just sidesteps it and he's gone, right? Cincinnati doesn't play like that. One, they got pressure, which was good. They were playing 6 DBs that were extremely fast. They were athletic. They stayed with our receivers step by step for the most part. They were in position defensively where they should have been. They stayed home. If the play had someone staying home, they stayed home. They made the tackle. And look how they were tackling versus fundamentally, look at how they tackle versus we were tackling. I can't tell you how many arm tackles I saw where we didn't tackle somebody on the opposing offense. And then you watch their tackling. The only tackle that I really saw that I was thoroughly impressed by our team was when 13 got Desmond Ritter and just pummeled him on that sack. So outside of that, all of those little fundamental things was the difference between Cincinnati and us. We made a ton of mistakes. We had 25 yards in the first part of the second quarter, like the first half of the second quarter. 25 total yards that we had offensively. You cannot win football games like that. Now, it was pretty impressive that we ended up with 296 yards in the game after that, but we could not get our running game going. They knew, they knew our game plan, and they had been coached defensively to stop us. And we could not take the top off of that defense, which means they could stack the box. They were running blitzes exotically. They didn't have to really worry about the pass. And, by and large, Mikey Keene did a good job several times of stepping up in the pocket and evading a rush. I don't mean to sound like I'm railing, but I'm just saying that you look at the special teams play that we had, we looked lost out there, quite frankly. Our punter's been haphazard recently. He was great last year, haphazard this year. Our punt return is Willie Mazing, catches to try to catch it inside the 10-yard line. Those are simply mistakes you don't make in a mature team. And what you saw in Cincinnati was they had a great defense. They had great athletes.
That you just said it right there, and I think that's the thing. Mature team. A mature team versus an immature team. And a hurt team, which makes you even more immature because you've got guys in there that probably shouldn't be playing that are playing because you need them to be playing. I don't like to make excuses and all that stuff, and it's not an excuse. We are like hurt. We're hurt bad, and we've got a lot of young players. Coach said it best. He said something like and I didn't pull the clip, and I keep quoting him on all these things, and should have pulled the clips, I guess. I just didn't want to have a million clips. He said it best when they were talking about the punter situation. They've got to protect the punter. They've been, there's too much pressure on the punter is what he thinks is going on. So, and I could see that. Because he didn't do horribly bad last year. He wasn't good. He wasn't great, but he was good last year. He hasn't been good this year, and they're not protecting him well. So we'll see the changes that they make there, because I think that they've recognized that now. Coach said that he's never had blocked punts before, like he's got going on this year, and that's protection, of the punter. So. Hopefully that gets
you could
better.
see that even in the way that they lined up versus the way we lined up in our protections. And all year, where those folks that are either impacting the play or actually getting the ball, where that's coming from is the edges. So something has to change on the edges. But the way that we line up when we're defending for a punt versus the way Cincinnati did is completely different. And the other thing that Cincinnati had, they had that Australian-style punter, right? So the guy that gets the ball, goes to the side, and then kicks it off the side. Whereas our punter, he just gets the ball and punts it straight up. So if you can create a little bit of distance depending on where the rush is coming from, and you can tell where the overload is, then that creates a little bit more space for you and time for you to get a punt off as well.
Yeah, well, maybe there's an Australian on the soccer team or something that can come over and punt, or they've just got
German.
I think they've got to figure out the protection more than anything else. I think that's where it's at. This is what Gus said on Cincinnati, what he learned in Cincinnati. He said this today. I really love this though. It's on. He was asked basically, what did you learn about your team playing Cincinnati on Saturday?
I mean, we're not there right now. I mean, that's what I learned. I mean, they're not just the best team in AAC. That team can play with anybody. Matter of fact, that team can beat anybody. I mean, I know what it looks like, and they could do that. But what it means for us is we're not there, but we're going to get there. And after the game, you kind of, that'll be a game that if we could fast forward a year or so and look back how far we've came, that'll be something to do measuring stick-wise as a head coach when you're developing your program. And right now, we're in the process of developing our program. I mean, it is what it is right now. We're developing our program. We're developing the foundation with all the little things that go with it. And we're going to get there, and we're going to recruit. Recruiting's going great. We're going to get there, but we're not there right now. And but we're going to get there. It was really good to see what it looks like. It was good for our players to see what it looks like. But that's an impressive group, and they'll have a chance to win the whole thing if they stay healthy.
All right. We're not there yet. We thought we were there. We were there a couple of years ago, but we're just not there. I mean, that's the best thing that I've heard him say, and I think that lights a fire under a lot of people when he says that we're not there, because we were there, and then I think the former coach messed it all up, to be honest with you. He messed a lot of things up. Which I was a fan of, and I stood by him. But the more and more I learn about things that he did mess up and ruined a lot of things, the more and more it makes sense to me what Gus is saying. So I hate to hear that, but that's the truth. We're not at that level that they are. So I hope. And I know that there's a lot of people that are down on Gus right now, but the best thing that could happen would be Gus sticking it out here, and unless he's absolutely horrible, which I don't think that's going to happen for the next 4 years or whatever, I want a coach to be here at least enough time to see his recruiting class through. I've been saying this since Scott Frost. Since Scott Frost came here. You can go back and try to listen to all that, but I'm almost positive I said I want him to stay here long enough to see his guys that he recruited as freshmen to graduate as seniors. One of the reasons why I want a coach to do that is because of what happened, is what's happening in Cincinnati, obviously. But then the other thing is when they go into a recruit's living room and say all these things, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to take care of your kid. I'm going to be there, blah, blah, blah. They tell the parents that. I don't know if y'all know that. I don't know if your kids have ever been recruited or you've been recruited or whatever. But the coach comes in there and says things like that. So I want one of those coaches to actually mean it and to be here for those kids their entire career and be able to build something like Cincinnati has. Scott Frost got lucky. He got lucky with George O'Leary's players that gave up on George O'Leary, and Scott Frost came in here, motivated them, and they played really great. Yes, he built a camaraderie with the players is what he did. He changed the way that the players thought about the way that they played on the field. He changed the way the players thought about each other. That's what Scott Frost did. Scott Frost is not the golden boy. We've all seen now what he's doing in Nebraska. He's not the golden boy. He's not the football genius that everybody thought he was. So this is what we need. We need a coach to stick around here and to see things through. And the best thing that could happen if Gus can keep things going is for him to be here for like 8 or 10 freaking years, to be honest with you. And recruiting is going to get better just magically because we're going to the Power 5. We're going to the Big 12. We're going to be able to get kids that we've never gotten before because we were in Conference USA or lower or the American and in the G5. That's automatically going to get better. And I know Gus can recruit. Now, can he develop quarterbacks? You're about to see if he can develop a quarterback because he's going to have to. So, anyway, that was my little rant, I guess.
Yep, a little rant. Just a teeny, tiny little rant.
Well, it happens.
No, but I love when you go on them because it's interesting, right? So, at the end of the day, look, folks, if you guys are down on Gus Malzahn, you're not being realistic.
I think you're freaking nuts if you're down on him, to be honest with you. I'm going to say it right there. Like,
he doesn't have his players. The cupboard was bare. You've got a bunch of injuries. Over 37% of your starters on your entire team, right, are out.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at a recruiting class, if you have a full recruiting class, 25 players, the percentage of players that are going to be starters for your team at some point during their careers, okay, is somewhere in the neighborhood of 25%. So you've got 4 years for these folks, right, as they ramp up over time, where you're going to have those starters. Heupel did a terrible job of recruiting. Now, I'm not saying that everybody that Heupel brought in is bad. Far from it.
He won with Scott Frost players. It's the same thing. It's like,
but Scott Frost had now.
One with George
what I will
O'Leary's
say about
players.
Scott Frost, I agree with you, especially defensively. What I will say about Scott Frost that he did really well, besides motivate players, because I do think that was a big thing, is that cultural change, right? I do think his scheme ended up working with the skill players and took advantage of the skill players in Florida. He doesn't get those skill players in Nebraska, right?
Yeah,
For a variety
any
of
of those schemes though like that only work for so long. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they only work if I think part of Scott Frost's problem is that he plays in the one conference that probably has the best linemen and is known for linemen in the entire.
Known for linemen and running backs.
Right. So
Big
that conference, and the way his scheme works is he wants to move. He's not trying to
Smaller,
grind
faster
it out.
players.
Well, yeah, exactly. He's trying to move the line of scrimmage up the field and use movement and shifts and things like that to get a concentration of offensive linemen that are moving the line of scrimmage up 5 to 10 yards. That's what he's doing. That doesn't work very well when you've got some of the best linemen in the entire country in your conference and they're playing ball control football.
Yeah.
So, it worked here and it was the right thing at the right time. And he had a special player named Mackenzie Milton.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
he did bring him. He did bring him. He did. And he brought Otis Anderson. He brought Adrian Killens. I mean, but Heupel, played with those guys and won with those guys as well. But who that Heupel has recruited really has been, huge in this whole deal.
Well, Dylan, but Dylan was
Mackenzie recruited.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that. Outside of that, from the transfer portal, he got Flash. So you have to give him credit for that because Flash is pretty darn good.
Well, not recruited, but transfer portal.
From the transfer portal.
Not recruited.
But then again, a lot of the players he's recruited are not on the football field yet either.
It's true. That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
It usually takes 2 or 3 years for them.
That's true. He was
to
only
get
here
through
for
and get on the
he
field.
was here for 3 or 2. I don't know. 3.
I think he was 3.
3, I think, and we got progressively worse the entire time. And now we're feeling the effects of that. Plus, we've got a bunch of injured players. And then we have a new staff completely again. So, yeah.
Which I don't mind the staff.
Plus the 6 guys that were kicked off the team last year. Remember that? For 5 guys or whatever. Those guys would have been seniors.
A lot of defensive starters.
Yeah, they would have been super seniors, So they
super
all,
spreader seniors.
Yeah, they all could have come back. So those were 3 or 4 of our best defensive players that were all kicked off the team.
Right.
Because of their own
a few
actions,
of them were I think a couple of them were sophomores, so they would have been juniors this year.
Yep.
And again, that's what you want, right? That's what you want is you want them their 3rd or 4th year. They've had 3 or 4 years in the program. They've gotten to play, and they're now getting out on the field. That's what Alabama does.
Well, Alabama's had their coach for a million years too, though. This is the thing.
No, I know, but I'm just saying that is the ideal, right? So you've got enough depth and you've got enough time to develop them in your system. So by the time in their junior or senior year, they only get to play or start usually, unless they're a phenom quarterback or something like that, right? They only get to play in their junior or senior years. They're only playing 2 years out of the 4 or 5 that they're in the program.
Yeah.
Not to include if they gray shirt them, because a lot of them get gray shirted or blue shirted or whatever else, right? Yeah. So now you've got another year.
Yep.
Then you end up with BYU's players who are 28 years old.
Right.
But that was a little joke. But the
like
point
25.
is,
some of them are like 25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freshman 25-year-olds.
Exactly.
Yeah, because they've gone on their mission trips or whatever.
Yeah, but I don't know. I was reading a thing that isn't nearly as much as it used to be or whatever. So I don't know if that's totally true.
Listen, if they can connect their beard with their mustache, then you know that they're 25 or older.
That's true.
But listen, at the end of the day, all jokes aside, realistically, my main point was saying all this. This is not Malzahn's fault, folks.
No.
And for those of you that are thinking that, I'm sorry, but
and those of y'all
just
that want
not thinking.
Yeah, and go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just
no. They're just not thinking. They're thinking emotionally and are upset because we're losing and we're not seeing the wins. And that goes back to another thing. For the first time in 4 seasons, we had a loss by more than 7 points in a regular season game.
Well, yeah. It was our biggest loss. Let me get to that note here. This is
Gus's
crazy.
biggest loss.
Well, not just that. It marked the most points given up by UCF this season and the most since allowing 59 to Houston on October 24th, 2015. That tells you something. The most points scored against us since 2015.
And let me say this, folks. That's not the defense's fault.
No.
That was turnovers.
Well, and a really, really good football team. We haven't had a team like that in our conference for a very long time, if ever.
Yeah, but we stopped them too. What my greater point was that we had 3 turnovers that we gave up and a bunch of short fields on special teams.
We know that.
Yeah. So, you can't hang this all on the defense either. So
Jerome Ford became the first player with 4 rushing touchdowns against UCF since September 20th, 2003, when Walter Reyes of Syracuse did that. Think about that. Since 2003. That's crazy. These are big, bad records that are getting broken. That's insane. Since 2015 and 2003. 35-point margin of defeat was the most for the Knights since losing 51-14 at Michigan on September 10th, 2016. So these are we're starting over as far as some of these records that we held for quite a while. I'm bummed that we had that score 30 points in back-to-back games for a long time. That's long gone now. So that's what happens when you have a freshman quarterback, though. That's just thrown in.
And half your team out.
Yeah. It is what it is. Okay. I want to get to this one. Here's I like this from Gus as well, halfway through and going forward.
I think at halfway point, you kind of catch your breath. And we've had the ups and downs. We've had close wins, close losses, and then we get blown out on the road. We've got 6 games left. As coaching staff, we know where we're at now. We know what we have, what we don't have, and we got to build the best plan. We got to improve. That's what I told the guys. We got our butts kicked, and we got to flip the page. And we got Memphis, I think, on a short week, so we got to flip the page. Obviously today, not really good, but I'll tell you this: we're building this thing. We're building this thing for the future. We'll look back on this day, so this will be a day that we'll remember. But there's a lot better days ahead. I'll tell you that. We're growing the foundation this year. We've had some ups and downs. We'll continue to do that, and I feel pretty strong we're going to finish strong. I really do. But we're building this thing for the future.
All right. Again, building the thing for the future, and I'm glad that he is stressing that point because it didn't seem like it was going to be a rebuilding year. Honestly, even when you have a new coach, I guess it kind of automatically turns into a rebuilding year. I think we had higher expectations, though, for this year with as many seniors and stuff, and returning quarterback that was one of the best players in college football. But it's a rebuilding year. I guess we've just got to kind of come to that conclusion as fans as well, and all that. So another thing, Gus, obviously a lot of people heard that he had to leave early, did not fly back with the team, had to fly to see his daughter. He actually updated us about that actually today in the press conference as well. So let's hear that real quick.
Yeah, so really what happened, my daughter had my grandson on Thursday, and everything went well, and she had a little scare. Like a couple hours later, had to rush her to the hospital, and then she got to come back home, and then she had another issue, had to go back to the hospital. It was a really stressful 48 hours trying to figure out what I need to do, with that. And, the game, it is what it is. We got beat handily, and like I've told you before, I'm disappointed, but as soon as that over, got a chance to spend time with her. She's doing a lot better. She's back home, doing well, resting. The baby's doing well, so we feel very blessed as a family.
All right. Imagine the stress of him, dealing with that during the game as well. Those of you that have kids or grandkids or whatever, that had to be a lot to be dealing with during a football game, especially when you're getting your ass handed to you.
What?
Well, whatever. Yeah, I don't say that very often on here, but I can say it once in a while.
Yes, you can, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so glad that all worked out. By the way, his grandson is named Gus, which is cool, and he also said more about that, but I didn't want to put all that in there. It didn't need to be in there. You can go find that if you want. It's out there. In his press conference today. Another thing that he said that I like this clip, and I'm going to keep this clip. This is going to be one of my Gus quotes. I like this quote. It's short.
That team can play with any team in the country. They've got a complete team offensively, defensively, and special teams, and they can win the whole thing.
So who knows? Hopefully we don't ever have to hear that again, but I like that quote. So it's true. It's absolutely true. He was questioned a little bit about the offensive woes in this game. So here's what he had to say about that.
We got to run the football, and we weren't able to run the football. And we got a freshman quarterback on the road. You got to be smart. They can really put pressure, rushing the passer. They're a good defense, and when they play man, they challenge you. You got to be able to run the football, and you got to have some explosive plays. And we weren't able to do that until the second half. We had a few.
And then here's what he had to say about Mikey Keene after the pick six and what he told him.
Hey, play the next play. That's all you can do as a true freshman. He's still learning. You come in this environment. It's not an easy environment for anyone, much less a true freshman. He's growing. He's learning on the run, and he'll continue to get better.
All righty. Well, I think we all know what it is at this point. So on to Memphis. As far as I'm concerned, if you want to talk about it more, Roger, we can. I'm kind of tired of talking about getting our asses handed to us, personally.
Yeah, we covered pretty much all of it, right? The bottom line is the O-line got pushed around. They were well coached. They were assignment sound. Our defense did play well in spurts. We got some 3-and-outs going. We really confused them for a bit. But we hurt ourselves with basically just making mistakes. And at the end of the day, again, we're playing with the depleted staff. Our red zone defense, one positive I do want to bring up, the last few games, our red zone defense has been stellar. 100% stellar. They've been put in some really bad spots. They held teams. They held ECU, and they actually did a pretty good job with Cincinnati as well. Holding teams to field goals or just stopping them altogether. So I do want to say that the red zone defense has been really, really good. Our third down percentage was actually much better as well. We achieved 40%, which average is somewhere in the 20s. So we actually did pretty good job converting third downs. So did they, unfortunately. But that's a good sign for us as well. We did have two turnovers. We had a fumble and an interception as well. And we got a sack, and there were definitely some pressures. So there was some things that were going well. It just wasn't enough to overcome the mistakes we made. Hats off to Coach Fickle. He's a solid coach. He's always very genuine, always very complimentary to us. And he mentioned to the radio team and the media for Cincinnati why Gus had to leave, and I thought that was a really stand-up thing.
Absolutely,
for him to do.
He didn't have to do that, but it was to make Gus not look bad because he wasn't talking to the Cincinnati media.
He jumped right on a private plane to go be with his daughter.
He's a good guy. Coach Fickle is a really good guy. I like him. I watched the press conferences, from them this week as well, and yeah, he is a class act, like, all the way. And I'm glad that we have a guy like that with Gus too, personally.
Yeah, and he teaches being humble.
Yeah.
So his players, it actually reminds me a lot. I mean, obviously, Coach Fickle's not George O'Leary, but the approach to teaching of the team taking ownership and doing the extra to get the detail right reminds me a lot of the Coach O'Leary years. We didn't make a whole heck of a lot of mistakes.
Well, Gus is one of those guys too. So we haven't seen that yet. It hasn't been.
Well, he hasn't had 4 years to do it yet.
Enough
either.
time to develop that yet, where we'll actually see that. But he's that kind of a guy too, and I think that's why they both have so much respect for each other. They're built from the same cloth, I think. So. As far as Memphis goes, let's take a break and then we'll come back and we'll talk about Memphis here. We can say a lot on that. So let's take this break and we'll be back. If you haven't figured it out yet, I love Tijuana Flats. I would love them even if they weren't a partner with us on the Knightline Sports Network. They have all kinds of great Tex-Mex food, and it's fresh, by the way. Made to order burritos, tacos, enchiladas, chimichangas, quesadillas, bowls, nachos, and taco salads. And if you haven't tried the queso, you are completely missing out. It is the best queso that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely hands down. And the sauce bar that they have, everything from wild to mild in there. Absolutely awesome stuff. Not only do I love the food at Tijuana Flats, but I love the company, a UCF-born company. And they give back to the community with the Justin Queso Foundation. So head to your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. Hey Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
All right, on to Memphis on Friday night, 7 o'clock. ESPN2. I wonder what's going on Friday night on ESPN because none of the games that I see in college, there's not a college football on Friday night ESPN. on ESPN2 are the Friday night football games. So that's interesting as far as I'm concerned. I have no idea what it is. Maybe it's hockey or something. I don't know. There's a lot of hockey on ESPN these days. Roger, are you a hockey fan?
Not really.
No, there's so much of it on. I mean, like, I think ESPN got a contract starting this year or something different with hockey because, man, there's just a ton of it on there. And I'm like, man, it's on every night almost. And when there's not football on, I'm going to have to start watching hockey. I still have not figured out who's going to be my team, though.
I think hockey was on either AMC or Turner or something like that, and they bought it out. So that's why you're seeing a lot of it on
just
ESPN.
A ton of it. It's crazy. Yeah, so I'm going to have to, maybe you guys can tell me, and it's probably not going to be the Lightning.
Or the Panthers.
Not a Tampa fan of really anything sports related. So, and I'm not from Florida, so I have no ties to that kind of stuff except for UCF. Kansas City doesn't have a hockey team. They used to. They used to have the Scouts, which turned into the... Oh boy, they've gone all over the place, that ownership group. I don't even know if it's still around anymore. They were the Kansas City Scouts, and then they turned into, I think, the New Jersey Devils. And then that franchise, I think, moved out to Colorado Rockies. Are they still or Avalanche? The Avalanche, Colorado Avalanche? I don't even know if they exist anymore. So
they do.
I don't know. That may be the franchise, then I'm not sure. Anyway, okay, Memphis Tigers. So I like to look at the pick center on ESPN and the matchup predictor. Well, we have gone yesterday when we did the radio show. We were a 3-point favorite. Now we're a 2-point favorite. So that's interesting. That has changed for some reason. And the over-under is 63. 2-point favorite at home. Matchup predictor still has a 63.9% chance, 36.1% chance for Memphis to win. Interesting that would change. I guess it'll fluctuate. We'll probably make it back to -3 favorite at home, which is the normal amount. But Memphis has done fairly well, though, in their last couple of games. They beat Navy, which we did not. So they had a few losses, though. Well, actually, they had. They didn't. I haven't really followed them too close. They haven't done that great, actually, their last few games. They beat Navy, but their 3 games before that were losses. So they lost to... Let's go through their schedule. They won against Nicholls State. They won against Arkansas State. They won against Mississippi State. Then they lost to University of Texas San Antonio, which is ranked now, by the way. Never been ranked, I don't think. And then they lost to Temple. Then they lost to Tulsa. But they beat Navy. Navy had a bad game the other night. So, that could be interesting. I don't know. They have one more win than we do.
Well, statistically speaking, they're pretty close to us as well, even without Dylan Gabriel. So
they have a freshman quarterback as well.
Yeah, they're averaging 36 points per game. We're averaging 34 points per game. They're averaging 487 yards per game. We're averaging 440 yards per game. However, they allow 426 yards per game on defense. We only allow 384, and that's with the Navy game and this one included. They obviously they won last year's game. Passing, they average about 307 yards per game. Rushing 179. We average 236 passing and 204 on the ground. So we do it slightly differently. They're definitely a little bit more vertical than what we are.
They stop.
I don't know how Mississippi's. What's that?
They stop the run a little bit better than we do.
Yeah.
They only allow 148.9. We allow 176.7. But they allow more passing than we do.
Also run 204 yards per game. And to me, the X factor there is who's in the backfield. If it's Johnny Richardson, I'm not as confident. If Bowser's back to healthier than what he was last week, I'm more confident in that. We've got to be able to do the vertical running game. All these screens and bubble screens and all this motion stuff, that's great. But when you're doing it constantly and people know that you're averaging 5 yards per play, that means all they have to do is keep everybody in front of them in the box. So,
well, I mean, that's what you get with a freshman quarterback, though, that was thrown in the beginning of it. Or not in the beginning of it. Their freshman has been playing from the very beginning. He's actually doing really good.
Yeah.
He's already thrown for 2,153 yards, 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So our quarterback is a lot younger than theirs is. So that doesn't help us at all. It helps them a lot. So we shall see.
Well, they had Brady White for 10 years, so,
something like the Dr. Brady White, right?
Brady, you're right.
Isn't he a doctor
he got his PhD.
He got
his PhD, yeah.
Is he a medical? Was it a PhD or a medical doctor?
I don't think it was medical.
I
think it was a PhD.
I don't know if he's even a doctor. I was joking with that. I think he is a doctor of some kind, but I don't know. Maybe, who knows? I think I thought it was medical school that he was getting into as he was graduating. Maybe one of us can look it up real quick. I was kind of joking.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, so I thought he was a doctor or getting into med school or something like that. So
nope. He earned a master's degree in sports commerce and then enrolled in the university's doctoral program in liberal studies.
Okay, well, there you go. So, yeah. All right.
Whatever that is.
Yeah. And he was a transfer as well. So, and he still played.
Yeah, he was injured at Arizona State. That's where he started.
Yeah. Still played a lot and was a big thorn in our sides, even though they have not won against us very often. One time, I believe, in the last... I think it's
that was last year's game.
One time
in
right?
14 tries.
Isn't that crazy? Well, hopefully that does not happen again. Hopefully we can control them and not let that happen again. We don't.
I do think they beat us when we were Division II and they were Memphis State. I think we played them and they beat us, but that was the only other time.
Could possibly be. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you may be right. You may be right. All right, what else do you got on Memphis?
That's pretty much it, man. The big thing for us is if we can stop the vertical passing game, that's going to be the interesting part to me. I mean, they're averaging 307 yards through the air. If I think our DBs are going to be interesting because our defensive tackles are out, although we're supposed to get one of them back. Obviously, it's not Davis. I did see, I don't know if you noticed this, but Tremont Morris-Brash did play last week.
Okay. He's played for the last couple weeks.
Yeah, but if he
played,
plays
did
here
he
and
started?
there.
He started? Yeah. Yes?
No, he didn't start. I think he played in the second half.
Oh, okay. But more. He played more is what you're saying.
Yes, he played more than
Morris-Brash.
in the past.
He played more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. Anyway, I need that little thing. I still need to make a little, like a thing. Yeah, when you're trying to make a joke and it doesn't work. So back to that whole Memphis. UCF and Memphis have met 15 times in the history of the two programs, with the Knights leading the series 13-2. The Tigers won the first meeting, 37-28 victory in Memphis in September 22nd, 1990. The Knights then won the next 13 meetings. Memphis earned its first victory over UCF since 1990 last season, winning 50-49, despite 601 yards of passing from Dylan Gabriel. That 1-point loss, now I remember. I hate the 1-point losses. It's the worst ones. The Knights also topped the Tigers back in back-to-back AAC champion games, obviously, in 2017, 2018. So those were the days. Yeah, we'll get back to that. We'll get back to that. We've been doing what Cincinnati did to us to a lot of teams. So it's about time, I guess, that we got a little karma back. It's unfortunate, and you hate to do it, but you hate to get that back. But we got it back, unfortunately. All right, let's hear about the rest of the American from Jeff Allen, who had his 100th show this last week, if you heard it right here on the Knightline Sports Network. And Roger, you were on there, which was cool. And I had a little part in that as well. And I was really happy. Jeff put it there. Jeff put my thing at the opening of his show, which I was very happy to hear that. I did not put that there. So if you heard it, Jeff placed his little vignettes of people congratulating him. So I did not put myself first. All right, well, here's what Jeff had to say about the rest of the American this week.
There were just 2 other games around the American. Seth Hennigan completed 8 of 11 passes for 215 yards and 2 touchdowns. Memphis scored on 5 of its first 6 drives, ending a 3-game losing streak, defeating Navy 35-17 on Thursday. Calvin Austin III continues his big play ability, 69-yard score in a reverse that gave Memphis a 14-7 lead. One play after Navy had ran a 21-play drive to tie the game as 7, the most plays for any drive by a team at the FBS level this season. Tigers now 1-2 in conference, 4-3 overall. Navy drops to 1-5 overall, 1-3 in conference. And Shamari Brooks scored on a 3-yard run with 47 seconds left to play, lifting Tulsa to a come-from-behind 32-31 win over South Florida on Saturday. The Golden Hurricane 2-1 in conference, 3-4 overall. The Bulls dropped to 0-2 in conference and 1-5 overall. I'm Jeff Allen. We'll recap this past weekend's games and get you set for next week. Plus, news and notes from all sports around the American on this week's AAC report, only on the Knightline Sports Network.
Jeff has the coolest music. Like, I love that music that he has. I whatever. My music's
musical
cool too,
jealousy going on right now?
I vote no, not jealousy. I have good music at the beginning of the show. I have good music on all our shows personally, but I really love that music. Anyway, Jeff has a great show. I hope you all listen to it. I think that you do, though, because I see the stats, and a lot of people listen to that show. I think even more people from around the American, which should listen to the show, do now, which is awesome. So hopefully we will continue that into the Big 12. We've talked a little bit about that. So I guess one of his guests that he has on a lot does not want him to call it the Big 12 Report, but, whatever. I came up with the name, actually, the AAC Report with Jeff Allen, but anyway. It probably will be the Big 12 Report, so who knows. All right, what else do we need to talk about, Roger?
One of the big topics of conversation is this a rebuild versus a reload at this point?
I think we already covered that, though. We've pretty much said that it's a rebuild. I mean, didn't we talk about that? I thought we talked about that already.
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, the big thing that I'm looking at for next year, especially, like we said, we talked about the online. So to me, with the amount of folks that we're potentially losing, I think this is a rebuild. We get some of those back, some of those folks back that were injured, so that will help. So that tends to trend towards reload. But I really feel like what we're going to see over the next year is a heavy dose of the transfer portal. And for a short period of time, that's going to hurt our recruiting rankings, because a part of recruiting rankings is not just what the average star is that you're bringing in, but how many recruits that you're bringing in as well. We do get an extra 7 because of the COVID year, basically, that we can bring in. And then the other thing that I saw that was driving me absolutely up the wall was people were comparing Lebby versus Gus. Like some people were back to, hey, we should have brought in Lebby or the young coordinator versus who we have in Gus.
Yeah, that's funny because Brandon posted on the Dungeon. He found out that it wasn't even between Lebby and Gus in the long run. Let me find that real quick. Well, actually, you know what? If you're not on the Dungeon, you need to go and subscribe to find that out. That's $100 a year. But it wasn't between Lebby and Gus. Lebby was a distant third. Can't remember who the guy was, but he posted that today, actually, kind of in response to some of those people saying that they wished they had Lebby. I mean, I like Lebby, and obviously I know him, and it would have been awesome to know the head coach really well. So, and to have hung out with the head coach and all that stuff, that would have been very nice for me personally. But honestly, that was about it. I mean, I know the players liked him a lot, but he's never been a head coach. So did we want another coordinator as a head coach? I think we're in a great spot with Gus. I'm glad that Gus got the job, and I hope that he sticks around here a long time and really builds the thing. We're going to need somebody that knows like solidly and can solidly recruit, especially. We know that Gus can do that, especially going in a couple of years into the Big 12. It's going to be a big change, and the recruiting is going to be like huge in that because we've got to go places quickly with our level of recruits to be able to play in the Big 12. If you think that this team right now, as we play, can play in the Big 12, you got another thing coming. There's definitely a lot of Big 12 teams. There's maybe one or two that we could beat at this point. If it's anything like this, but it won't be by that time. So that's why I already think this year's a rebuilding year. That's why I said, didn't we already talk about this? Because, I just feel that this year is the rebuilding because of the new system, the transfers with everybody being hurt, and then it just automatically became a rebuilding year because we've got to start out with a different quarterback. We know we're not getting our quarterback back for the rest of the year. Highly unlikely. More than unlikely. I don't think it will happen at all. Excuse me, I burped again.
Oh.
Apologize.
I'm sure your microphone enjoyed that.
Well, it doesn't smell very good right now, I can tell you.
Look, Gus versus Lebby or anybody else, I was actually going to make the same point that Andrew does. So,
Sorry, I interrupted you again. It's
that's
what
okay.
I do, people. Get over it.
So what it boils down to is this. Gus is a P5 coach that has done well at the highest level. He's a coach that wants to stay here. And luckily, within a few years, we're going to be in the Big 12. So do you want a coordinator who's cutting his teeth on the job here, right? Who might want to bring a young coordinator with them defensively, right? Or do you want someone who's established, who's got a great name around college football and in recruiting? People know his name. I read something the other day that we're on the top 5 on his 4-star recruits thing because Gus has been recruiting him since the 8th grade. The 8th grade.
Yeah.
Right? We've never done that before.
Kids still know who Gus is. I mean, he's not so old that these kids don't know who Gus Malzahn is. The name alone. I think he's still got more Twitter followers than UCF does as a whole. So you got to think about stuff like that.
He's a brand. He knows football. He's an innovator, and he is willing to stay, at least for all intents and purposes, it seems like, and help build this thing into what it could be. So what I look at this is he's getting his head start now, right, for the Big 12. Everything that happens this season, next season.
That's another reason it's a rebuilding. It's a rebuilding for the Big 12 years. He says he's building the program.
Right, and he's building it towards the Big 12 years, in my opinion. This year would not have been a rebuild year had we not had so many injuries. I mean, it's
I don't
crazy.
think it would have at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it changed the whole season. That Louisville game changed the entire season for us.
Yep. And, at the end of the day, had we here's the sad thing. We had a phenomenal defensive line, and we'll never see them play one full game together.
It's true.
In between, both our defensive tackles, Tremont Morris-Brash, you got Big Cat on the that was our biggest weapon, and we'll never see them play together, which is absolutely nuts. So when you put it in perspective like that, and understand that every single position group, whether it be running back, whether it be quarterback, whether it be offensive line, whether it be defensive line, whether it be wide receiver, and then a few times in our defensive backs as well, every single group had injuries. Our linebackers did too for 2 games. What's his name was out? Not Tatum Bethune.
Bethune was out as well. He
Tatum
had a concussion
was out too
after the Louisville game.
Yeah.
He's luckily back.
Every single position group on the field, with the exception of the special teams,
honestly, our special teams have that too, because Riker Casey was supposed to be the kicker. And Riker Casey we haven't seen him at all this year yet, the kicker. So he's been injured the entire time. It was not supposed to be Orbowski kicking field goals, but Gus did call out Orbowski and say he's the one good part about the special teams. He said it almost.
I think he's perfect on the season for extra points and field goals, right?
I think maybe he might have missed one, but yeah, he's done a great job, except kicking that one out of bounds that he kicked out this week. It's the first one in a long time. That could have been wind or whatever. It seemed a little windy there. So, but yeah, and one of the other things that's been it's just getting under my skin a little bit. People are saying that they think Big Cat is a bust. That Big Cat was highly advertised and not what he was supposed to be. Well, when you don't have the surrounding cast, and he's like the one guy out there that everybody is gunning for, of course he's not going to have the greatest season, because they know he's the one guy out of all those guys that they have to stop. So they've all been keying off of him. So of course he's having a difficult year. So I think that if he goes on to the NFL, which I think he will, I think you'll see that he'll be a really good player.
Well, here's the funny thing about it, right? We said this a couple games ago against Navy. His impact is not just the plays that he makes, but the plays that are played away from him.
Yeah.
If you watch...
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, if you watch the games, the offenses are not running or passing to the side that he's on. So several of the games, including ECU, what you saw him do was you actually saw him switch sides or go into an overload, because they would just run the play whenever he sat, whenever he was standing on the side on his edge, or he was on the same edge every time. They would run him to the other side or have him running around in the backfield so people didn't see where he was going to end up going, and they'd run an overload to one side. Part of the impact that he has is he's taking away a whole half of the field.
Exactly. Yeah.
And people need to understand that. And that's just his presence and understanding how good he is.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find some defensive stats total for the year. No, they're here. Okay. That's offense. I just downloaded this thing. So 22 total tackles. So he's not real high on the list as far as that goes, but I bet his pressures are pretty high. Is that on there? I don't see that being on there. Yeah. Well, it doesn't pair out nearly as well as I thought it would. He's got 1 sack, but yeah, tackle for losses, he's got 3.5, which is pretty high compared. Kalia Davis was the only person that has more tackles for losses. So that's probably his best stat. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't show pressures here, which would be a big thing. I know he hasn't had the sacks, but we talk a lot about sacks and pressuring the quarterback, and pressuring the quarterback is a stat. I don't know why that it's not on this one. Anyway, whatever.
He's not a bust, folks.
No, I feel that is really bad for people to be saying that he is not what we expected or whatever. None of this team is what we expected, I don't think. So, alrighty. One more commercial break here, and then we'll be back with our Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week and news and notes.
I'm Jeff Allen. Join me each and every week on the Knightline Sports Network for the AAC Report. We bring you in-depth coverage of each school in football, basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, golf, tennis, and more, as well as bring you insider interviews and focus in on the biggest games and news of the week. That's all right here each week on the AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network.
Welcome. This is a promo for the Take a Left at Albuquerque podcast, new to the Knightline Sports Network. You should listen to it. I say things like this.
We need to stop blaming Jerry because we would do the exact same thing if we owned the Dallas freaking Cowboys. Do you know how much fun it is to own the Dallas Cowboys?
My guests will say things sometimes like this.
It's the Lord of the Flies thing that happens when they don't understand that things are wrong. Spoiler alert! Until Piggy dies.
Lord of the Flies has been out for like 100 years. I don't even know.
Yeah. Sorry to everyone at home who I spoiled the book for. A book's been out for like 90 years or something.
And sometimes, rarely though, I'll say really stupid things like this. If they don't make it out of the West and the Raptors get to the finals, I will go on either this show or whoever's show and say that Kawhi Leonard is overrated because I have too much evidence of it. New episodes drop every Friday with me and some of my good friends right here on the Knightline Sports Network.
Welcome to the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. Visit TijuanaFlats.com for takeout or delivery, or visit your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. All right, Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week is turned into our score prediction segment, which is perfectly fine. It's usually a hot take from me, I can tell you that. So it works.
Flaming hot take, folks.
It's flaming hot take, yeah, for sure. This one's going to be as well. I'll let you go first, though, Roger. What do you think's going to happen between UCF and Memphis on Friday night, 7 o'clock on ESPN2?
Well, as you mentioned, there was a 3-point spread or 2-point spread, depending on when you look at it. A 3-point spread means it's a toss-up, and the home team usually gets the 3 points. So, what I'm looking at, we went through the numbers a little bit earlier of where Memphis is, where their strengths are versus how they match up against us. I'm going to say that this week, I feel like we come out with the win 38-32. I feel like that's a little bit higher for us than what we're averaging at 34 points. That's a little bit lower than what they're averaging at 36 points. I feel like Mikey and company get the job done. We are playing on a short week this week, which kind of sucks. But other than that, we're at home, and I feel like we get the dub.
So 38-32 UCF is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Well, you know how at Tijuana Flats, I know most of you have been there, and you've been to the hot sauce bar, and you've seen the little happy faces, sad face, and then like the one with the X's in his eyes, and like, you know, insane hot or whatever. Like, so mine is going to be one of those insane hot ones. Those are the ones that I like, by the way, the sauces on the bar there. I like those ones that you just don't even want to think about, but they taste really good. There's one that they have, and I've talked about it before. It's called like something Mofo and Insane. Yeah, Mofo and Insane is what it's called. It's like,
that's your picks every week.
Yeah, and that's what this one is, though. This one is sponsored by Mofo and Insane sauce because that's my favorite, and this one is Mofo and Insane. Some kid right now is asking, what does mofo and mean? Sorry. That's what it's called. Anyway. So my thing is this. I just think that the entire team, the coaching staff and everyone is so pissed off about what happened against Cincinnati that they're gonna let it go. They're gonna try to put points on the board. Gus and the offensive coordinator and everybody is going to let Mikey King sling the ball a little bit, or who knows, whoever, Joey Gatewood, which can't really throw, but anyway, they're going to open the offense up, and the defense is extremely pissed off, I think, and they're really going to play hard. So I'm going with 42-14 UCF. I know it's crazy. It's crazy. Something's going to happen, though. And we're going to come out on top, and we're going to come out on top big. And that's my Mofo and Insane hot take of the week this week. We shall see.
That's definitely insane.
We'll see. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. That's what the fun of this whole thing is, though. So, all right, time for news and notes. And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports. All right, UCF women's soccer beat Tulsa this week, won 3-0, and now they are 6-1.
UCF volleyball is currently 14-6 and are 7-1 in conference play after defeating Tulane 3-1, Temple 3-0, and continuing the winning streak against the Cows by beating them 3-0 and earning more points for UCF in the War on I-4 rivalry.
All right. UCF men's soccer is 7-4 and 5-1 in conference play after defeating number 6 Tulsa and number 24 SMU in back-to-back weeks. Wow. That's really good for them knocking off. Where are they ranked? Do we know what their ranking is? They're not ranked.
They were ranked early in the season, and they had some losses, some very close losses. How
are you unranked after you beat number 6? That's crazy.
Number 6 and number 24 in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter when you're beating number 6. You know what I'm saying? They should be ranked. That's crazy. Soccer rankings are weird somehow, though. I'm not sure how they actually do it. All right, that has been Knightline 266. I'm Andrew Phegley.
And I'm Roger Phipps. Go Knights!
Charge on.
Charge on to the field. With our spirits, we'll never yield. Black